Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video because it is going to be my update in my 19 Shadows in 2019 project. This is my July update. I know this is going up kind of late, so apologies for that. But if you guys have missed my introduction or any of my previous updates for this project, I will leave those linked down below. Specifically, in the last update, I did sort of like a refresh, and I'm doing this project a little bit differently than most of the other Pan Those eyeshadows. So I drew inspiration for this project from Lexi's previous years of her Pan Those eyeshadows project, and I don't love the way I decided to like change the format for this. I decided to be my own person and do it my own way, and I definitely don't love the way that I decided to do it. Last month I decided to do a refresh but also keep in all of the old palettes that I was using. This all might not make sense to any of you, but so now I have just so many palettes to talk about and go through, so I figured in these updates, if I didn't use an eyeshadow palette that was going in the project the last month, I'm not going to even talk about it with you guys because clearly there will be no progress to share. So I'll just talk about any progress from any palettes that I do have and then talk to you guys about goals for the upcoming months. So if you guys are interested in my update on this project, then stay tuned. But first, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope you'll consider doing so before you go. I post videos every single Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, but today I'm giving you a Wednesday upload because I missed yesterday's Tuesday upload. I do apologize. But anyway, I upload those days. What am I trying to say? So if you're interested in subscribing, would love to have you. But other than that, let's get into my progress. Okay, so first and foremost, up until this point, I think I've only hit pan on 3 eyeshadows within this project, which was shocking to me. I want to go back and like rewatch my updates to see if that's actually the case. I feel like I have to be missing something, but I didn't have time today to go like rewatch my updates. I have hit pan within like other palettes in other projects or throughout this year, but within this project, the eyeshadow pans that I have already hit, first from the Wet n Wild Nude Awakening palette, I hit pan on this shade, and as you can tell now, it's almost all used up. There's like a little bit left. I don't even know if I'm going to try and scrape at that little bit left because I have another eyeshadow palette that I'm focused on, like a lid setting shade, which is what this was. So but I did work on this a little bit more the last month and use up more of that shade. Also from my ABH Master Palette by Mario, I hit pan on the shade Lula right here, which is this beautiful cool toned brown. I could definitely see myself expanding the pan on this even more before the end of the year just because I do love this shade so much. It's such an easy just like one shadow and done shade on days that I'm running late for work and don't really have time to like think about what I'm going to be doing for my eyeshadow. And then I also hit pan on a shade in the Deuce palette by Juvia's Place. I hit pan on the shade Berry Mousse right here, which is kind of like a lid setting shade. I had been using it as a lid setting shade, but I could also use this as a super light transition shade as well. I do really enjoy this palette, but haven't reached for it in a couple months since hitting pan, but I could definitely see myself using this shade a little bit more before the year's end and expanding the pan on this a little bit more. So those were the ones that I had already hit pan on, and now last update I had no pan to share with you guys, and I'm really excited to share that this month I actually hit pan on 3 different eyeshadows, which is so exciting to me. So I'm really excited to share that progress with you. Up first, I had been working on a shade from the Urban Decay Born to Run palette for so long, and I finally hit pan on the shade Riff right here. I'm so excited about this. Okay, it looks like I accidentally scratched into this and some of that shadow fell into Riff. I hope that you can see the pan. I know you'll be able to see it when I include pictures, but this took forever to hit pan on, and these shadows, I've been using this palette so much, and I swear it doesn't even look like I've even gotten that much use out of this palette. I do really enjoy this palette, but I will be honest, I put this away since hitting pan on that shade because I've been using it so frequently that I was just kind of over this palette, but really excited to have hit pan on that. And I will be putting this palette away for a little bit again so I can focus on some of the other palettes that I do have going in this project. Another palette I've been working on for quite some time is the ABH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette, and I actually was working on 2 shades in this palette. I was working on the shade Escape right here, which as you can tell does not have pan yet, and then I also have been working on this boho shade for so long, you guys, for so long. So I finally hit pan on this. As you can tell, these pans are actually pretty deep, And I was hopeful that I could hit pan on Escape before summer's end, but I just don't know if I see that happening. I do still love this shade as well as this palette, and I'm going to still keep this palette pulled through the end of the summer because I just love this palette so much. You guys will see as I show pictures from like the beginning of the project until now, more than just these couple of shades have gotten use. I've definitely gotten some more use out of other shades within this palette, which is what I love so much about this project. Is it's just encouraged me to grab for palettes that maybe had been collecting dust, or get use out of shades within palettes that maybe I wouldn't have had I not been doing this project. And then I also hit pan on a shade in the Noirvina palette. I hit pan pretty easily on this Dreamer shade right here, which is clearly a shimmer shade. So like I said, this had only been pulled for a month. I've gotten some good use out of this palette, and I've got to say this is definitely not my favorite ABH palette. And this Dreamer shade had a lot of fallout. Like, definitely not my favorite shade ever to use. I swear I only used it like 7 to 10 times before I ended up hitting pan because it was just so crumbly. And I'll say that about some of the other shimmers within this palette. So you guys may see more information about this palette in a disappointing products video, but as I pulled this palette and worked with it some more, I just realized that it wasn't a favorite like I once thought it was. Okay, silly me, I always forget about the single shadows that I had going this project, so I actually hit pan on 4 shades this month, and I had a previous pan in this project from my singles. So this palette's gonna look a little bit different than it has the last few months because I've added and changed some shadows. But I'm working on this quad up here, and I recently finally, I've been working on this shade for a while too, but I hit pan on the shade Shroom from MAC, which I've been using as an inner corner highlight. As you can see, there's a nice dip going. These are super deep pans as well, so that one took me months of pretty consistent use to hit pan on. I'd also already hit pan on the shade Creme Brulee from Makeup Geek. I don't think this pan has changed much since you last saw it. And this month I actually did use the shade right here, which I think is Peach Smoothie. Yep, which is Peach Smoothie. I'd used this shade quite a few times as well. There's a dip going, but the Makeup Geek pans are also pretty thick, or pretty deep, so I feel like this one's probably gonna take me more than a month, even though I wish it would only take me a month. But I am going to still focus on this throughout the rest of August, and hopefully we'll have some good progress to show you in my next update. Okay, now let's talk about the other palettes that I still was working on and focused on this past month. So I have the e.l.f. Mad for Matte palette, and I have been working on this shade right here. I don't think it has a shade name, but it's just this nice cool toned brown shade, kind of similar to that Lula shade from the ABH Mario Palette. I have a ton of confidence that I will have pan on this for the next update. I have a really good dip going here, and this is one of the palettes that I pulled in during the refresh, so this has only been going for a month, and I use this a lot on days that I work. So I'm almost 100% confident I will have hit pan on this in the next update, and I'm going to keep this palette one of my focus palettes until I hit pan on it. Also, my Dream Street palette, I'm working on the shade Kaleidoscope right here, which I did only use 1 or 2 times this past month. I love this shade. I think it is so beautiful. It's one of my favorite eyeshadows throughout my entire collection. So I'm not like super eager to hit pan on this, and this is probably a palette that I'll just always have pulled, at least until I hit pan, because I do love this palette. It is one of my favorites in my collection, but wanted to share that this is the shade that I'm working on because I did use it a few times this past month. And that was another palette that I had pulled during the refresh. This one has been going since the beginning. This is my Albemarle Cosmetics palette, and I've been working on the shade La Costa right here, which, as you can tell, has a nice dip going. I'm not sure how deep the pans are in these palettes, but I have a feeling they're kind of deep. I've used this shade so often, and not just as like an inner corner highlight. I've used this as a lid shade so many times, and I feel like the dip just like isn't getting deeper, so I feel like I'm going to be working on this for quite some time still. This is a really easy shade to use though, again, especially if I'm in a hurry, so I'm going to keep this as a focus palette. I also love this green shade right here. This green shade has like did spark my obsession just with like green shimmery eyeshadows this year. I've been obsessed. and it's all due to that shade. And then I also was focused on the Colourpop Element of Surprise palette. This is another one that got pulled during the refresh, and I'm working on this shade right here, which may kind of look like a lid setting shade, but it actually is pretty peachy pink tone, so it doesn't necessarily work for me as a lid setting shade. I still used it quite a few times this past month, even though it doesn't really look like there's much of a dip going. Like, I swear progress is minimal here. I feel like this shade is like a little bit more firmly packed than some of the other Colourpop shadows that I've used. Like, this one is like super loosely packed, but I feel like this one is a little bit more firmly packed. So I'm going to keep working on this one just because it is an easy shade to use as a transition, etc. So I'll keep this one going as one of my focus palettes. Wanted to share my progress on that. So that is all my progress on palettes that I was focused on, or palettes that I used at all this past month that are going within this project. There are 4 more palettes that I'm going to have as focus palettes for the next month that I want to share with you guys. So this Marc Jacobs palette I had pulled during the refresh. This was the shade I selected to focus on, and I haven't obviously used this at all since pulling it, but I do really like this shade. Here, I'll swatch it for you guys. It's kind of like this gunmetal silvery shade. It's very, very interesting and unique. Like, it looks silver in some light, but then it looks like a taupey champagne shade in other lights. So a really fun shade, and I feel like this one, I feel like the pans in this might not be that deep, so we'll see what my progress can look like, but I feel like I could get some good use out of this shade. Next, my colored Raine palette. This one has been in since the beginning, but I have barely touched this. I believe I got this palette at the tail end of last year, and I was so excited about this, but I barely touched this palette. This is one of my problems. I do this so often. So I selected the shade Royal Prerogative as the shade that I want to work on. Now this palette screams fall vibes to me, which I know August isn't quite fall, but I feel like this is going to be my perfect transition palette into fall. So I want to pull it early and start getting some use out of it and getting some looks together. But I'm really excited to work on this for probably the rest of the year, or at least until I'm able to hit pan on this shade. Okay, so then I have my Sephora Pro Palette, which has been going since the beginning. And I had been making some really good progress on this white shade up here, so I want to continue to focus on this until I'm able to hit pan. And I actually am focused on 2 other shades from this palette. I'm going to swatch these ones for you guys because they are so beautiful. I have this green shade, which is like a dual chrome green red shade. It's just, or almost like a trichrome shade, because in some light it looks like a champagne gold. Such a unique color, or eyeshadow. And then I also have this bright copper shade too, which I love. Again, I had created a few looks with this at the beginning of last year, like these fiery coppery looks that I feel like are going to be perfect for the fall time. So I wanted to make sure I pulled this as a focus palette. I think that I will end up using this quite often until the end of the year. And then the last focus palette I have for the month of August is my Natasha Denona Lila palette. And the shade that I am working on in this palette is this shade right here. I will also swatch this one for you guys because I love this shade. It's right here, and it's just, again, such like a unique, beautiful shade. It's like pinky, purpley, silver. I don't know how to explain it, but I absolutely love this shade so much. I was gonna try and focus on this one a little bit this past month, but just kind of not forgot about it, but it got pushed to the wayside. So I'm really excited to focus on the shades that I shared with you guys over the course of the next month, and I'm really excited for the next update. Again, these aren't all of the palettes that are going in my project, and again, I don't love the way that I formatted my project. I'm definitely going to just do it where I randomly select 5 eyeshadows like most people are doing this project. Definitely going to do it that way next year. But I hope you guys enjoyed this update. Thank you so much for sticking around to watch, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.